The following is a presentation of 912 Sports. Welcome to On Air with 912 Sports, your number one source for high school sports. With Sean Smoke, Kevin Price, and Robbie Ross. On Air with 912 Sports is brought to you by Coastal Pines Technical College. Go Coastal. Prime South Bank. Find your prime. Robbie Robertson Ford, because Fords are cheaper in the swamp. Gibson Animal Clinic, practical solutions with limited fees. Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery, the region's best orthopedic care. And Kim Smoke, licensed realtor with Crossway Realty.
High schoolers, did you know that you can get a head start on your college career and save money at the same time through dual enrollment at Coastal Pines Technical College? Dual enrollment is open to high school juniors and seniors, tuition free. Talk to your high school counselor or visit coastalpines.edu for more information. Coastal Pines Technical College, an equal opportunity institution. Go Coastal.
It makes sense Prime South Bank would have a great mobile app. Nobody is as mobile as our customers. For a century, they've chased dreams, followed their hearts, took the road less taken, made a new path, taken leaps of faith. At Prime South, offering the latest digital banking, secure pay apps, and new online lending is part of a mobile tradition that goes way back. Life is mobile. So is Prime South. Find your Prime. Member FDIC.
Robbie Ross with the Ross Report on 912 Sports. Big high school football weekend once again as the region races are taking shape. Playoff positioning is getting all that more important as we reach the last 2 weeks of the regular season. Our game of the week last week was Liberty County over Long County 33-32. Big region game there. It was Appling over Vidalia 34-13. Pelham over Bacon, 47-24. Statesboro defeated Bradwell, 41-14. Statesboro looking for the 3 seed in that 5A region. Tatnall County over Brantley County, 35-13. It was Brunswick continuing to be undefeated. They defeated South Effingham 42-3. Camden County with a big upset over Valdosta, 17-14. Big win for the Wildcats there out of Kingsland. Clinch County over Atkinson County, 47-19. Big matchup with Charlton County this week for Clinch County to take control of that region. Coffee over Jenkins, 42-7. Frederica Academy got their first region win of the year over Bullock Academy, 42-20. Glen Academy, a last-second field goal, wins it for the Red Terrors over Evans, 25-22. Glen Academy looking good for the 3 seed out of Region 2-6A. It was Worth over Jeff Davis, 43-7. McIntosh County Academy clinches their region championship over ECI, 28-21. New Hampstead over Islands, 48-7. It was Pierce County over Windsor Forest, 49-14. Ware County over Greenbrier, 44-0. And Wayne County over Benedictine over Wayne County, 31-10. That's the Ross Report for 912 Sports.
Play it loud and rev it up. Robbie Robertson's got trucks built for tough.
Make your way to Robbie Robertson Ford in Waycross, where the deals are bigger than ever. Looking for a stylish midsize car, a spacious SUV, or a truck that performs at work and play? Robbie Robertson wants your vehicle and is paying top dollar. Now is the time to buy. Fords are cheaper in the swamp.
At Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery, you don't have to be an athlete to get the region's best orthopedic care. Our board-certified orthopedic surgeons and physicians treat injuries and conditions that affect just about any joint or bone in your body. Plus, we're backed by the support of Southeast Georgia Health System. From fracture repair to joint replacement, Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery will get you moving again. Call 1-855-ASK-SGHS. That's 1-855-275-7447 or visit sghs.org/summit.
Hello everybody, Kevin Price for On Air with 912 Sports. Last Friday night, I was out at Glenn County Stadium for Glenn Academy's Region 2 6A game against the Evans Knights out of Augusta, and Glenn got it done in comeback fashion, winning that ball game 25-22 between the bricks of Glenn County Stadium. And with that win, Glenn Academy assured itself of another trip to the Class 6A state playoffs after the season. This will be their 9th straight trip to the state playoffs under GA head coach Rocky Hidalgo, who is actually in his 9th season with the team. But Glenn Academy actually led the ball game against the Knights early on. Glenn scored on its opening possession of the ball game to take a 6-0 lead, actually tacked on a 2-point conversion as well to make it 8-0, but the Evans Knights came right back, answered the Glenn touchdown with a touchdown of its own on its first possession, going 80 yards for the score. They did not get their 2-point conversion, so Glenn still held a lead of 8-6, but the Knights did lead the ball game 14-8 at intermission, and then on the opening play of the third quarter, Evans and their running back Rayshawn King took a handoff and went 80 yards for a touchdown. It was his 3rd touchdown of the ball game. He actually scored all 3 touchdowns for Evans, and that gave them a 22-8 lead over the Red Terrors after they added another 2-point conversion run by their quarterback DJ Walton. But Glenn Academy's defense would clamp down from there. The offense, of course, would keep churning out yards on the ground and finally started punching the ball into the end zone. Glenn would score the final 17 points of the ball game to pull out the victory. Glenn started his comeback with a touchdown right near the end of the third quarter, added the extra point kick by senior Cody Arnold. That pulled Glenn within 22-15 going to the fourth quarter, and then midway through that final period, Glenn mounted its game-tying touchdown drive. The touchdown was scored on a 2-yard run by Greg Peacock, the sophomore running back. More on another big night by him in a moment. Cody Arnold again added the critical extra point to tie that ball game up, and it was 22-22. And then Glenn goes on what turned out, of course, to be his game-winning drive in the last moments of that ball game. They actually scored a touchdown on a run by senior quarterback Tyler Devlin. That touchdown was called back by a holding call. So Glenn ends up having to settle for a field goal try, a 43-yarder by senior Cody Arnold, who, of course, booted the ball right through the uprights with just over 30 seconds to go, and Glenn had that 25-22 lead. And the defense goes out and makes one more stop on the Knights to seal that victory up for the Red Terrors. But again, I mentioned the comeback effort, of course, and then the big night by Greg Peacock. He had another huge night for the Red Terrors, carried the ball 37 times for 233 yards, had that one touchdown, and then also on Glenn's game-tying drive where he scored the touchdown, he caught a pass of over 20 yards with a great catch from Tyler Devlin on third down to keep that drive alive for the Red Terrors. Of course, Greg Peacock was our player of the week last week. Our players of the week always sponsored by Coastal Pines Technical College. That was for his performance in the Grovetown game the week before, which Glenn won at Glenn County Stadium. So yet again, back-to-back big performances by the sophomore running back Greg Peacock, that 233 yards, one of the best all-time single-game marks in Glen Academy football history. But Tyler Devlin also had a nice night at quarterback for the Red Terrors, made some key runs, particularly in that fourth quarter on option keepers, did a good job of directing the offense. The Glen defense actually missed some tackles in the first half, did not fit on the football like Coach Rock likes to talk about, did not surround the ball carriers like they needed to, and gave up some yards to Evans on the ground, but did a much better job of stopping Evans, of course, throughout the second half after that 80-yard touchdown run to begin the third quarter. And Glen's defense comes up with a big second half effort as well. And, of course, the special teams certainly got involved with Cody Arnold making all of his extra points and then making that big kick there at the end of the ball game for Glen Academy to win it. That was Glen Academy's third win in a row, and that now puts Glen over the 500 mark at 5-4 with one game left in the regular season. More importantly, like I mentioned, they are going back to the playoffs now. They can do no worse than the number 3 seed in the region. With one game to go, they're now 3-2 in the region after losing their opening 2 ball games to Brunswick and Effingham. The Red Terrors have now won their last 3 over South Effingham, Grovetown, and now Evans. And of course, Glen is off this week, off tomorrow night. Will return to action a week from tomorrow, which is November the 4th, on the final Friday night of the 2022 regular season. They'll be on the road at Lakeside Evans to close out the regular season schedule, and then the state playoffs will begin after that. Now, speaking of Evans, they are back in action tonight, actually against Brunswick High School at home in Augusta, a Thursday night meeting between those two teams. That kickoff set for 7:30 p.m. Brunswick now 2 wins away from another perfect season. This would be their 9th win if they can beat the Knights tonight as expected. And then next week they're headed for a big showdown on November the 4th, the final Friday of the season, at home against Effingham. Brunswick, if they do win tonight, will be playing for a second straight perfect regular season of 10-0, and of course that game next week will also be for the Region 2 6A championship. So that's the prep football report from here in Glen County. I'm Kevin Price for On Air with 912 Sports.
Gibson Animal Clinic is ready to help with your animals. From cats to dogs to horses, we treat them all. Call on us for grooming, bathing, boarding, and more serious things like surgery, dentistry, spay, neuter, immunizations, heartworm prevention, flea control, complete lab testing, radiology, preventive health care. Call us at 285-7678. Open Saturdays for your convenience. Gibson Animal Clinic. Practical solutions with reasonable fees. Russell J. Gibson, DVM.
Gibson Animal Clinic, 108 Riverside Drive, Waycross.
Hablamos español en nuestra clínica.
Welcome, sports fans, and thanks for watching On Air with 912 Sports. I'm Sean Smoke, publisher of 912 Sports, joined as always by head writer and podcast host Kevin Price. Kevin, how you doing?
Good, Sean. Good to be with you, talking high school football. Obviously, it's Georgia-Florida week here in South Georgia as well, with the big game in Jacksonville on Saturday. But a lot of big high school football games coming up before we get to the college game between Georgia and Florida, and a lot of playoff berths on the line, region championships, home seeding, different things like that. So a big final 2 weeks here of the Georgia high school final 2 weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, Kevin, it's about over, and your quaint little island is about to be invaded by 18 to 25-year-olds wearing red and black, and a lot of older Bulldog fans as well. But you're fixing to experience a crazy scene for the next 4 or 5 days here, 3 or 4 days anyway, for sure.
Yeah, no question. That frat beach thing they have over there, on the coast over here, not too far from where I live, actually, is going to be wild on Friday. They've gotten to where they dress up in Halloween costumes as well. So you see all kind of interesting things. And of course, they carry these milk jugs, and there's not milk in those jugs. So there's all kind of interesting things in those jugs as well.
Beverages
So,
of choice.
yeah, I'm not sure what all's in there, but it's something that gets them real excited and gets them barking like dogs. And it'll be a party on Friday for sure.
That's for sure. Well, and like I said, Saturday's a big game down in Jacksonville. We've got a lot of big games Friday night, Kevin. We're going to start off with the 912 Sports Game of the Week, and that is Clinch at Charlton County. Kevin, this is a heated rivalry. It's been a rivalry for years. Both of these teams come into this contest undefeated in region. I think Clinch is sitting there at 8-1, 3-0 on the season. Charlton is 5-2, 2-0 on the season. Hey, both of these teams have lost to respectable teams. Clinch lost to Cook. Charlton lost to both University Christian and Pierce County. There's no reason to hang your head about any one of those three losses. But in single A, it's going to be, it's kind of like a ipso facto, whatever you want to call it, region championship. I mean, I know there's Lanier still sitting out there. They could have something to say about it. But I believe, Kevin, the winner of this is going to win that region.
Yeah, Sean, and when you look at this thing, I believe they call it the Swamp War. They may have some other names for it too, but I did look up the series history just to confirm it. It is all even at 30-30-1.
Wow.
Charlton County won last year's game 35-34, and then won back in 2020 18-14. Before that, Clinch had won, I think, like 6 in a row. So somebody's going to take the series lead again. But yeah, this is probably the most meaningful game in a couple of years, with the fact that the region championship probably is on the line. You mentioned both teams' records. Clinch ranked number 2 in the state, Charlton ranked number 5. When you look at these two teams, Sean, both teams have the potential to light up the scoreboard offensively. But Clinch might have a little more explosiveness when you just look at their scores. I mean, they're averaging, I think, right at 36, 37 points a ball game. Charlton averaging 28. So the key for Charlton might be to keep this game in the 20s. Don't let Clinch, definitely turn it into a track meet. So we'll see if that can happen for Charlton County. Obviously, it's a big game. You can probably throw the records out the window and all that kind of stuff. It might be a play in special teams or something like that actually decides it. But it's going to be dog eat dog. These two teams have gone at it for years, and this has the makings of another good one.
Yeah, like I said, going to be a real good. You kind of give Charlton a little bit of an advantage because they got to go to Charlton's house down there, the house that Champ Bailey built, whatever you want to call it. But so I think that's going to give Charlton a little bit of an edge. But hey, Clinch, no slouch. This is going to be a great high school football game on Friday night. But moving right along, Kevin, we got another region championship on the line. We've got Tatnall at Appleton, and you say, how can that be a region championship? Appleton's only lost one game, but it is. Trust me, Tatnall comes in this game 3-1. Appleton is already sitting there at 5-0. This is the last region game for Appleton. But if Tatnall was to get them, it would put that one loss, both of these teams with one loss, and Tatnall holding the advantage because they would have the head-to-head. There's a lot of weird scenarios that can happen in this region. We will not know who seeds where until this thing is over Friday week. But it's going to be a really good game because I'm telling you, Tatnall has the dudes to play with Appleton. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that Tatnall will beat Appleton. I'm just telling you this is going to be a really, really good high school football game on Friday night.
Yeah, Tatnall might be one of the biggest surprises maybe in South Georgia so far this season, Sean. I mean, this is a 5-3 football team that's 3-1 in the region. You mentioned Appleton County being 6-1 and 4-0. They've got a big lead in the series. Tatnall's only beaten Appleton 5 times. The record's 5-17 against Appleton overall. But this is, I would venture to guess, this is one of Tatnall's biggest games in years.
Oh yeah,
the fact that they've got a shot at winning the region championship. If they can beat Appling here, of course, they still got a tough assignment next week to finish it out with Pierce, so they're far from done, even if they win this one. But the fact that they're here in week number 9, game number 9, I guess I should say, for them, with a chance to win the region and to possibly still get even a number 2 seed, possibly, in the playoffs is big for them. So here's Appling also saying, hey, we beat Pierce County and we still don't have a region championship wrapped up.
Right.
So, and then there's Pierce out there really not really controlling their own destiny, still kind of fighting for their playoff lives. to finish anywhere in the pecking order as well. So, like you said, a lot still to be decided in this region, including the region champion. But you would think that maybe Appling being at home, being maybe the more experienced team in this situation, having played bigger ball games, would probably have the edge. And I tell you what, we know that Appling plays good defense. This offense may be rounding into form as well, Sean, because I think last week they ran the ball or had almost 500 yards of offense and had 2 ball carriers gain over 150 yards. So their offensive line was mentioned in the Georgia High School Daily Report this week, and it was good to see all those kids get credit for paving that way for that big offensive performance in their previous game. So keep an eye on this Appling team, particularly if they can get that offense, keep it going like that, because we know they can play good defense.
Right. And I haven't seen Tatnall play, but I can tell you Appling is huge for a 2A school. This is a very big football team. Not numbers. I'm talking about the size of their players on both lines of scrimmage. They're as big as any 5, 6A program in the state. I mean, they've really got some big guys in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So tough task there for Tatnall, but we'll see how it goes there at Jimmy Swain Stadium on Friday night. But moving right along, Brooks coming off that big loss to Irwin's got to go to Bacon. Jenkins is going to be at Bradwell. Jenkins still sitting there trying to get that third spot for their region. It's going to come down to them in Statesboro, it looks like. Brantley's going to be open this week, and then we get to the game that Brunswick is going to be playing. Brunswick's got to go to Evans, got to make that long road trip to Augusta. Brunswick sitting there undefeated on the season. Evans coming off that tough loss to Glen Academy, but Brunswick probably just keeps right on rolling here, Kevin, in this one.
Yeah, John, this game's taking place, right now as we speak. This show started at 7. It was a Thursday night, 7 o'clock kickoff in Augusta. This game was moved maybe even before the season started, or certainly in the first couple of weeks of the season, because like a lot of places, there's a shortage of referees in the Augusta area. The association that usually calls, these games asked that a game be moved, and it was the Brunswick-Evans game, and both teams obliged. I think maybe it was Lakeside Evans and Grovetown that played last week on a Thursday night. So this week is Brunswick and Evans. Brunswick's already been up there one time this year to play Grovetown. That was the week of the hurricane. Brunswick won that game, but they did give up 39 points, and a lot of people are still wondering how that happened. But I think Brunswick will handle this trip much better. They know that they're going up there on a Thursday night. It's a shorter week, one less day of practice. But Brunswick's pretty well a well-oiled machine at this point. They just got to get their P's and Q's down in terms of what they're facing with Evans. Evans is coming off that tough loss to Glen. Had a 2-touchdown lead, 22-8. Early in the third quarter in that game, Glen comes all the way back and wins that ball game last Friday night, 25-22. Glen punched his ticket to the state playoffs by doing so. Evans right now still fighting for their playoff lives. Still in the running for that 4th spot, but of course, a tough task here facing this Brunswick team. Brunswick should go to 9-0, should go to 5-0 in the region, and then they'll have a big battle next Friday night against Effingham at home for the region championship. And Brunswick should be looking at trying to finish off their second straight unbeaten season at 10-0 should they win this one tonight, which I think they will.
Yeah, great accomplishment there for Coach Garrett Grady, if he can do that back-to-back there for the 10-0 seasons. But like I said, going to be a good one there going on tonight for Brunswick and Evans. But moving right along, Kevin, we got Camden County, who's open. Congratulations to the Wildcats. A huge victory last week over the Valdosta Wildcats. Won that game 17-14 to put themselves right in that mix there for a playoff spot there in Region 1-7A. Coffee has to travel to Greenbrier. Got to make the long journey. Not a lot waiting on them when they get there, but still got to go play that game. Effingham's going to be at Lakeside Evans in an important contest there for Effingham. Try to stay on pace there with Brunswick to make that showdown game there next week. Frederica, coming off a big win, is going to be at Pinewood Christian. So they got to go on the road and try to keep that winning streak alive. And then Glen's going to be open this week. Glen coming off, like you said, Kevin, big win over Evans. Coming back, was down 2 touchdowns there in the third quarter and come all the way back to win that game. So congratulations to Coach Hidalgo and the Red Terrors, put themselves in the playoffs there in 6A. So we'll see how the rest of the season shakes out with them. But that's going to wrap it up for the first section. But stick around. We'll be right back here with more previews after these messages. You're watching On Air with 912 Sports.
It makes sense Prime South Bank would have a great mobile app. Nobody is as mobile as our customers. For a century, they've chased dreams, followed their hearts, took the road less taken, made a new path, taken leaps of faith. At Prime South, offering the latest digital banking, secure pay apps, and new online lending is part of a mobile tradition that goes way back. Life is mobile. So is Prime South. Find your Prime. Member FDIC.
Play it loud and rev it up. Robbie Robinson's got trucks built for tough.
Make your way to Robbie Robertson Ford in Waycross, where the deals are bigger than ever. Looking for a stylish midsize car, a spacious SUV, or a truck that performs at work and play? Robbie Robertson wants your vehicle and is paying top dollar. Now is the time to buy. Fords are cheaper in the swamp.
High schoolers, did you know that you can get a head start on your college career and save money at the same time through dual enrollment at Coastal Pines Technical College? Dual enrollment is open to high school juniors and seniors, tuition free. Talk to your high school counselor or visit coastalpines.edu for more information. Coastal Pines Technical College, an equal opportunity institution. Go Coastal.
Welcome back, sports fans. I'm Sean Smoke, joined by Kevin Price, and we're doing the previews for the 10-28-22 games here in the 912. And we're going to start off with the Jeff Davis Yellow Jackets. Kevin, still winless on the season. They're going to be open before they play their last game of the season, but been a tough one there in the Pinelands for Coach Helton and the bunch. But like I said, they're going to get an off week this week. Beach is going to travel to Liberty. Liberty coming off that big victory over Long County by 1 point this past Friday night. And then Long's got to travel to Savannah to take on Country Day, one of the better schools in 3A this year. Long coming off that tough loss to Liberty by a point this past Friday night. But that brings us to MCA versus Portal. And I want to congratulate Coach Bradley Warren and the MCA Buccaneers. Kevin, they are Region 3, one single A Division II champs after the big victory this past Friday night over ECI. So they're 8-1 on the season, 3-0 on in region. And regardless of what happens in this Portal game, Kevin, they already are region champs. I mean, I completely expect McIntosh to win this game, but they've already solidified that region championship. And really, Kevin, you go back to that Glenn Academy game, they played Glenn tough that night. I mean, I know they lost, but still they were in that game most of it. So a really, really strong showing there for the Buccaneers this year.
Yeah, Sean, can you go back and say all that again? Region, division, that's a mouthful, right?
Exactly. I hope if GHSA doesn't do anything this year off season, I hope they change the name of this whatever they've done to single A. It's a lot easier to say single A private and single A public, which you can't say anymore because that's not the way it is. So.
Okay. Yeah, but McIntosh County Academy, I mean, a great job by them, winning that ball game last week over ECI. MCA over ECI, that's pretty simple, but it was a 28-21 ball game, and it was a tooth and nail type game in the first half. MCA kind of got hit in the mouth early, but kind of withstood ECI's best shot, and I think actually held the lead at halftime, and then actually controlled the second half, came out and took charge and got the job done. And ECI is a program that's had a winning tradition. McIntosh has kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit, but Coach Bradley Warren has come back and steadied the waters there, and this is his fourth season there, and the consistency in the program, I feel like is starting to pay off, and I know he does, and the kids are buying into what him and his coaches are preaching on both sides of the ball. And when you look at this MCA team, Sean, they're solid. Their defense is they're one of the top 10 teams in scoring defense in the state. And then offensively, when you look at their stats, they're very balanced in the run game anyway. They got 4 or 5 guys that they could give the ball to at any given time to be their primary ball carrier. But any of those guys could be the main man in a lot of offenses, particularly here in South Georgia, but on a lot of teams in the state. So they've got a lot of guys that can carry the ball for them in that run-heavy offense. And with the right draw and a region championship is going to get them at home at least for a round or two, and they can make some noise in that single A bracket they're in. So hopefully they can finish out the season strong. They're playing this Portal team that's lost some close games, Sean. So I'm sure they're kind of looking at this McIntosh game as sort of a bowl game, so to speak, for them to try to make a statement. And they're 4-4, 2-2 in the region, but McIntosh should win this game if we're not still punch drunk from last week, and if they can, get off that emotional high and come back and play some good hard-nosed MCA football this week.
Exactly. And Coach, Kevin, you talked about this game being close, 28-21. But listen, MCA's they're not strangers to close games. I mean, the Jenkins County game was a 4 overtime game.
Yeah.
They came away winners 27-21. So they've been in that pressure cooker. So I think that's going to bode well as MCA takes off and gets into the state playoffs. So we'll keep an eye on those guys for sure. But congratulations on that region championship. Moving on, we've got New Hampstead's got to go to Burke County. That's going to be a big game in 4A there, Kevin, to try to figure out who's going to seed where. Looks like Benedictine's going to win that region pretty handily, but you've got Wayne, New Hampstead, and Burke sitting there, struggling for 2, 3, and 4. So be interesting to see what happens in that game. And then that moves us on to Pierce at Vidalia. Pierce coming into the contest 7-1 overall, only losses to Applin. That puts them 3-1 in the region. And then you've got Vidalia. Vidalia 6-2, was 5-0 to start the season. Kevin then hit a kind of a rough patch, sitting there at 2-2. They've lost to Tatnall, they've lost to Applin, but a big game in this region, man. Because like we talked about earlier, Kevin, this thing is up in the air, and until the last game's played, the last game of the season, nobody's going to know how that season falls out.
Yeah, obviously, Pierce, still trying to rebound from that, Appling loss. Hopefully they can finish out the season strong. And, if things don't fall their way, at least get a number 2 seed. But Vidalia is still right there in the running, fighting, clawing, scratching for a playoff berth as well. They've got two big games, starting with this game with Pierce and their rival game next week against Toombs. Both of these games with playoff implications. No question that Pierce has the upper hand in this ball game. They're the team that's supposed to win. So this is sort of a freebie, if you will, for Vidalia. If they can get it, obviously it would be huge for them in terms of their playoff seeding. But it's going to all probably boil down to them next week in their game against Toombs. But there's a lot of moving and shaking going to be going on in this region in the last couple of weeks with who beat who and whatnot. And it's just all going to have to shake itself out. All you can really do is concentrate on your game and let the chips fall where they may. But Pierce should have the upper hand in this game, but Vidalia is a solid football team, and we'll just see how it goes.
And Vidalia does get them home. Pierce got to go on the road, so that's a little bit of an advantage there for Vidalia, but going to be one to keep our eye on. Richmond Hill's got to go to Lowndes County, Kevin. Tough there in Region 17A for the Wildcats. Got to go over to the Concrete Palace. South Effingham's going to be at Grovetown. I don't think either one of these teams are going to see the playoffs there in that 6A region. I guess South Effingham maybe has a slight outside shot, but still this game's pretty much just finishing out the season. And that brings us to Ware at Statesboro. Big home playoff game is on the line here. If Ware can get this victory Friday night, Kevin, they'll cement themselves with at least one home playoff game because they'll know they can do no worse than second place in the region. And, of course, that'll bring them to the big showdown with Coffee County, the last game of the season. But, listen, Statesboro's got a lot to play for. Statesboro has an opportunity to finish as a 2 seed, to finish as a 3 seed, to finish as a 4 seed. So they're trying everything they can to get into the state playoffs. And with a victory over Ware, a loss to Coffee, they could be hosting a home playoff game in this scenario. So it's going to be an important one in Statesboro there Friday night.
Yeah, well, Statesboro has athletes, particularly on that offensive side of the ball. Their quarterback and the running backs are good, but it's tough to run against that Ware County defense as we've talked about. So it's probably going to be tough sledding for the Statesboro offense. And then, Ware should probably have their way offensively. Statesboro's had a tough time defensively this year, stopping people. They've given up a lot of points. So, as long as Ware's not looking ahead to that game next week, I think they handle this one with relative ease. And then we'll talk about that big one next week between them and Coffee, a showdown there in South Georgia, just like we thought it would, coming down to the final game there for those two teams to see who's the region champion and the number one seed. But I do think Ware is going to be too physical, too big, too strong for this Statesboro team tomorrow night.
Yeah, and if Ware gets the win, listen, I know Coffee's going to win, but if Ware gets the win, that's going to be a top 5 matchup next week over in Douglas, where we're sitting there at number 1 in almost every poll, and Coffee's anywhere from 3 to 5 in the poll. So like I said, that'll be a big, huge contest there for the last game of the season. But moving right along, we've got Toombs at Windsor Forest. Toombs got to get this win at Windsor Forest. That'll put themselves in a position where that big battle next week as Vidalia and them tie up, for a playoff spot. And then Wayne's going to be taking on Southeast Bullock. Wayne coming off a tough loss there to Benedictine this past Friday night. But, hey, they're still in the hunt. They're still looking at a possible 2 seed. They could finish anywhere from 4 to 2, but they got to get this one against Southeast Bullock to put themselves in that position. And then they'll just have to see how everything else shakes out between Burke and New Hampstead and Benedictine. But a lot of good football going to be played Friday night, Kevin. A lot of good football going to be played tonight, with that Brunswick game. So check it out. But that's going to wrap it up for this week's preview of the 1028 games here in the 912. But stick around. We've got more on air with 912 Sports coming up right after these messages.
Gibson Animal Clinic is ready to help with your animals. From cats to dogs to horses, we treat them all. Calling us for grooming, bathing, boarding, and more serious things like surgery, dentistry, spay, neuter, immunizations, heartworm prevention, flea control, complete lab testing, radiology, preventive health care. Call us at 285-7678. Open Saturdays for your convenience. Gibson Animal Clinic. Practical solutions with reasonable fees. Russell J. Gibson, DVM.
Gibson Animal Clinic, 108 Riverside Drive, Waycross.
Hablamos español en nuestra clínica.
At Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery, you don't have to be an athlete to get the region's best orthopedic care. Our board-certified orthopedic surgeons and physicians treat injuries and conditions that affect just about any joint or bone in your body. Plus, we're backed by the support of Southeast Georgia Health System. From fracture repair to joint replacement, Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery will get you moving again. Call 1-855-ASK-SGHS. That's 1-855-275-7447 or visit sghs.org/summit.
This has been a presentation of 912 Sports.